Hey, assalamu alaikum to the next episode of Muslims on Fire. This is your host, Maruf, and today I have Brother Faisal from UK. Brother Faisal, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for your time. Tell us, we're going to start into your life journey, but before that, tell us what you do. What are you up to these days? Then we will dive into, if you don't mind.
Sure. Okay, so I've got a few things that I'm doing. The first is I'm a dad, so I've got two little girls, Fatima, who's 3, and Asiya, who's just turned 2, and I've got another one sort of due any time now. So if I get a call, I might have to just go, but alhamdulillah,
Sounds
so
good.
that's quite exciting. Um, in terms of my kind of professional life, I've got there's two main. I've quite an interesting journey and stuff, but there's two main projects that I work on. One is I'm the co-founder of Muslim CEO, which is a kind of education and training sort of consultancy, helping Muslims in terms of growing a business and to kind of master wealth essentially. And then I've got an education platform called No, which is all about helping Muslims to become better thinkers and intellectuals and all that kind of stuff. So these are two areas I'm really, really passionate about: education and wealth building, because I really, really believe that it's the key to success as an ummah in general. But inshallah, we can go on to
Yeah,
that.
this is how we came to know each other, right? With
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
Now for Ali Khuda, one of the startups. That's cool. So yeah, thank you for your intro. One of the questions we go and we ask is that, like, if you go back to your childhood, right? If you go back to your childhood, what are the memories, fond memories you remember? And we also, one of the memories you think, what are the experience you think that made you who you are today? What would it be?
So I think there's a few very interesting like anecdotes or things that I remember. The one thing is that I was always someone who was quite intelligent at school, basically to the point where it felt like I was quite naturally talented, right? So it was like, I was always the guy who parents went to parents' evening. Oh, he's really, really good, A stars and this and that. And it got to a point where I think around I was probably 13, 14, where I remember going on holiday somewhere. I went for 6 weeks, came back. There was a test, and I came back on the day of the test. The teacher said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like, I don't expect you to get anything because you haven't done any of the material." I did it, and I got the highest in the class. I got like 95% or something. And I think from that point on, there was a bit of a change in my mindset at that point, where because at that point I was someone who, alhamdulillah, like I read a lot. So my parents used to take me to the library, and I was always like a really avid reader. And but from that point on, I kind of maybe some complacency or something set in. And so from that point on, I started like coming out of my shell a little bit more, working a little bit less, and this and that. And so I kind of went down a path where I felt that, I took things for granted. And so that was a pain. And so as a result, alhamdulillah, I still did okay on my GCSEs and A level and stuff, but I never felt I quite mastered my potential or what I was capable of. So that was always like a sore point that kind of stuck with me. So that's something I remember sort of quite well from
Interesting, quite
childhood. Yeah.
interesting point. So when did you find out that that change happened? Probably not right away, right? Just back a couple after a
But
couple of years.
a lot of it is like a hindsight basis. It's looking
Hmm.
back. I think, oh, what, that was a real critical moment when the things that I was doing, working really hard, really like focused and determined to a point.
Hmm.
Oh wow, you start believing your own hype a little bit. You start thinking, oh God, okay, I can. I don't really have to work because I'm still passing and stuff. So that's where you then, and then yeah. So then I kind of did less of the work and relying more on natural talent and stuff, and
Hmm.
then this is what you realize that this is maybe some of the mistakes I fell into.
One of the funny moments, actually, I was reading a book, not reading, but listening to a book recently. I think you must have heard about as you mentioned, just mindset, like a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And the book by the Carol S. Dweck, right? So she exactly mentions this point in life that there are kids that are talented in life, that things become natural, easy to them, and they because of this come easy to go into a complacency, right? To say
Mm,
that's okay, I can do this. And on the
yeah,
other hand, you hear the people may not have talent, but they have the effort, sheer effort, just keep doing, keep
absolutely,
doing, keep doing.
100%.
So what you're describing is, I think, in this case, is the first event, right? That's what happened to you. You were so easy. You felt, you said, okay, that I can leave. My question is that not many people quite really kind of be aware of that moment, after a very, very
Mm,
late. But you are describing the starting conversation from this. That's very interesting. That's very,
mm.
very interesting. So, okay, that's what you remember from your school days. That's very fun. So, tell us, like, since most of our listeners are, Muslims, I want to ask you that how is the environment at home? Like, your parents, like, are they more inclined towards religion? But today, because this is even the no, right? Because you're really deeply passionate about Muslim CEO, or even the no is about Islamic history, Islamic,
Mm.
scholars, etc. It's like a very, very focused. Has it, does it have anything to do with your upbringing in family in the early stages, or is it something come at a later stage? That's what I want to figure out.
That's a very, very good question. So I would say that my upbringing was very, I would say, uh, average. Average in the sense from an Islamic perspective. Alhamdulillah, like we were very, very happy. Obviously we were like working class. My dad's a bus driver. My mum was like a sewing machinist. So everyone, all I've seen is like hard work from day dot, and a very making ends meet, and that kind of happy family. My dad in particular, obviously, he's bearded. He's always been like, kind of very religiously inclined, but he's always been someone who's never pressured us. So he's never put the pressure. Okay, you have to do this and you have to do that. He's always said, "Look, you guys, my duty is to teach you. You guys need to. When you get to a certain point, then it's up to you." But
Mm.
and so he's always gentle encouragement and stuff like that. But
That's
obviously, we
very
went to the
open-minded. That's very open-minded. Huh? They're just
yeah.
saying, I'm gonna teach, I'm gonna force you, it's up to you.
Yeah, yeah, alhamdulillah, yeah. So obviously there was always gentle encouragement. We always went to the mosque with him, etc. And so as a result, I would say that my upbringing was very, I would say, normal. Is what I'd say, especially from I'm based in a place called Nottingham in the UK. It's a northern town, so I was basically doing the same thing that kind of everyone else was doing. I was, praying at home, going to the mosque, learning Quran, and then I did a bit of extracurricular stuff. Maybe I did Islamic studies
But
at.
not too much, very strict.
Yeah, it wasn't super strict at all. Um, but it's interesting because even from the whole religious aspect, there was a bit of a influence on my kind of upbringing and childhood. So there was a very huge I would say, uh, sectarianism and division that plagued, the city, and I guess in a lot of places it still does. So my dad he was very kind of big with the Tablighi Jamaat, and so obviously I went to a lot of Jamaats and stuff growing up. But a lot of my friends were of a different persuasion, so they were kind of a lot of like Brelvi and stuff. And so what we found was at school sometimes there was always we have all this division between the 2 days. Someone is on one day and someone does it another day, and so it was something that I was always often caught up in. All my friends doing it on a different day, and then I was doing it with my family on a different day. And so again growing up, it's something that it does stick with you because you feel like, oh, I'm the other, or you want also as a youngster, maybe sometimes you want to conform because you don't understand the nuances or the why people are doing things differently, and people ask you and you're not sure why and stuff. So that was often something that was very apparent, I guess, in my childhood as
So,
well.
just to give it clarity for the listeners to understand properly, I want to understand properly as well. When you're talking about just right now sectarianism, you're actually talking about the difference. Different movements inside Islam, right? You're talking about
Yes, of
Tabligh
course.
Jama and other Jama. So even then, you felt the difference. I know we're not talking about Muslims, non-Muslims. It's inside Islam
No,
as
no,
well.
no. Of course, no, no, no. I mean, alhamdulillah, I've got to say, like, there was never any really issues
Mhm.
growing with like Muslim and non-Muslim and stuff. But I found there was this definite divide in especially in the city where I grew up between these two um, groups. I guess I felt it because I was, I guess, caught in the crossfire. But part of me was, you're going to the certain certain mosque with your family, and and then you hear when you go to the mosque with your friends, you're hearing something maybe a little bit different, or they're telling you different things, and so you're a bit confused, right? And you also don't, you're at that stage where I don't really get it. I don't get why emphasizing on like these little things. And so it was also something that again, I thought about a lot growing up, and again, it has shaped the direction of my life as well. I've got to say.
Interesting. So I think, as far as I know, you are the second person that mentioned this. I think we were talking to another, mashallah, CEO from Pakistan. He's a very good brother, Arif Hisham. He's the co-founder of the Quran Majid app. He also mentioned his stories and going out and helping community and through the Jummah. Like, I want to ask you like a bit personal question. So as of right now, you're not that kid anymore, right? In the masjid, you can see these differences. Now you have fully grown up. You're fully you have your own opinion in that way. So I want to understand, where do you stand right now? Whether didn't necessary to do this kind of differences, but where do you stand? I mean, for me, it's interesting because I don't know a lot of. I mean, all I know about Jama is that this Jama, sometimes go to different parts of the Muslims and try to call them to be to Islam in a way. That's all I know. My knowledge in this one is limited, so I don't pretend to know. But where do you see yourself in that way? Like,
so I've got to say that again. I'm at the stage where I really, really believe in you take the good and leave the bad. That's a kind of a key principle in life in general. And I believe that everyone has got good, or they mean well, and there's goodness in them. So, and I think that a lot of this stuff, when you look at Islam in general, you think it's so much bigger than often a lot of this stuff is limited to the South Asian community and stuff. But you think that Islam, when you actually go out and study, you realize, oh God, it's micro in the grand scheme of things. So my current position is that I don't really associate with any particular or with any particular sect. Accepting of all, and and that's kind of how I have. I've kind of disassociated in that sense, because I actually feel that it doesn't really. It maybe causes more problems than it needs to. We're at a stage where there's enough division as it is. There's enough problems as it is. Actually, it's unity. Focus on the good things, not the or focus on what brings you together, not the problems.
absolutely.
So that's kind of. I feel that there's a really interesting story I read, was that I read that when astronauts, when they go into orbit, many of them have come back and they've reported they've had this massive paradigm shift or a philosophical shift in their thought process, because they've realized, oh God, when they see the whole world, everyone's just so tiny and all the problems of the world just disappear. You think, oh God, what's the point of arguing about little things when we're so small on the grand scheme of things. And this is the thing, like often when you speak to people who are of different persuasions, you realize what you're arguing about it's minor in the overall scheme of things. And I think this is when we only unite when it comes to an external threat.
Absolutely.
And actually, when you look at the success of someone like China is an example of what can be done when a country solidifies, it unites, and has this aspiration of, oh yeah, we want to be the greatest country in 50 years' time, and everyone just fully focused on that vision. And look, they're pretty much getting there, aren't they?
Yes. Okay, so that's very interesting insight. So let's get back to you. Let's get to your childhood and how it moves on. So early childhood, like I want to understand, like after you're finishing school, during you finish school, did you have an idea like what you really liked, what you want to do with life? Like you're finishing up your school, or you were just like me, like you had no idea, just moved on with life?
Yeah. So again, you're asking very, very like pertinent question, because I've realized now a lot of things from a child have shaped my worldview now. And so what happened with me is that I was sort of 17, looking at deciding on my options for university. And the thing I knew that back then was I really liked writing, right? So I was looking at, okay, maybe I want to do journalism. That's the kind of thing I was thinking. And then this was 2001, so I was deciding. And then what happened? 9/11. 9/11 happened, right? And so all of a sudden, I was seeing, that's the first, I guess, event that catapulted, on the world stage, and you start noticing things. And all of a sudden, I was now seeing this demonization of Muslims in the media, and I started thinking, oh God, like, and then encouragement from others as well. They were just saying, oh, so if you actually become a journalist and you have to write for one of these papers, what if they make you write against Muslims? And I sort of like maybe questioning it, maybe it's not the right thing for me after all. And so I thought, okay, but because my English skills were quite good, obviously, my mum and dad kind of encouraged the whole law thing, because obviously, if you can't be a doctor or an engineer, you be a lawyer, right? So so that's what I went down. I went down the whole. I did law, and so that's kind of what I did for my undergraduate. I did law, and again, it was with the same mentality. It was just kind of like, look, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of cruising through life, and I'm like, because it's a very interesting degree to do, just because it teaches you that, look, life isn't black and white. There's always a gray area. There's always somewhere that you can analyze, and you can always argue a case and stuff. So it really teaches you that nuance. But beyond that, I guess it didn't really like flare up the passions or anything like that. It was just very, okay, yeah, I've done it, and I'm waiting to be done with it, basically.
Okay, so you went to study law. Like, did you end up finishing the study? Did you end up becoming a
No,
lawyer?
so I finished the full degree, and then I also
you passed the bar exam as well.
Yeah, so I've done all that. Yeah, I did all that. So I passed it's called the LPC in the UK. So I passed that.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, I actually, what was interesting was that I actually went back to, so I'd worked for a few years, and then I actually went back to do the legal exams, and back at that point, that hindsight of, oh, you know what, I didn't really do justice to my academic career. You know what, now I'm going back, I'm really going to study. And so there's 1 year of full focus and full study, and alhamdulillah, I got like a distinction, like a first class honors, and I was able to really like. So then for me, at that point on, it was like, okay, look, my career is now set in stone. I'm going to be a solicitor now, I'm going to be a lawyer, and that's for me. So
Cool.
so yes, so that was. But what happened in between that period? So this was about 3 or 4 years later. I went back to do the law. When I left, all I knew was I didn't know what I wanted to do, but all I knew was, okay, you know what, I just want to work at a big company. I just wanted that. I don't know why, it was just in my mind. I just want to work at a big company. So I applied at a lot of the big names, Mars and all that kind of stuff. But alhamdulillah, I was fortunate to get a role in my hometown. So there's a big corporate called Boots. So Boots, they're like a high street chemist. They've got like 3,000 or 4,000 stores worldwide. They've got an alliance now with Walgreens, so Walgreens now own them. So anyway, so I was working, and what happened with them is that, so I did the interview, and they made me do like a personality test, and they said that, okay, well, we're gonna put you in our basically they recruited me into their graduate pool, and then what they said, okay, well, your personality suits being in our buying division. So from that point on, you're going to be, so I was training to be a buyer. A retail
That's
buyer.
interesting. That's interesting, because you studied to be a lawyer. Now you in the sales. How did it happen?
Yeah. No. Again, I have no idea, because I guess what they from this is the quite interesting thing, because I don't know what made them decide, because there was a few people who did that same test as me, and one person went into the data team, one person went into the logistics team. So, but for me, there's something that about my my interview plus my test that said, okay, you know what, I guess because buying is all about relationships, and it's about being able to negotiate with your suppliers and all that stuff. So I guess there was something about that kind of, maybe I showed some level of commerciality, that they said, okay, yeah, we're going to train you to be a buyer now. Okay. So that was quite good. It's quite nice to do my first job in a big corporate like that, and you work with some really, really big names as well. So, and I was working in one of their categories. It was in their like deodorants and shower gels, and so it was on their toiletries division, basically. That's kind of what I was working. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and then I went to work for another retailer, but this was a much smaller retailer called the Perfume Shop. So they are basically, Boots are number one for perfume, and a Perfume Shop are number two. So in terms of in the UK. So and that was again in their buying team.
Still sales, huh? Still sales, buying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, still sales. So sales is buying is more procurement based, where you're buying from the suppliers, like this many perfumes, and then the sales team are obviously the ones that go off and sell it. So yeah, so I did that for a couple of years. But what was interesting throughout my these few years in the Boots and the Perfume Shop was this one thing kept haunting me. Oh, Faisal, I wish you'd show some passion. That's what they kept saying. I wish you'd show some passion. right? And I never really understood it because I'm like, look, I turn up on time every day. I work hard. I've got really good like reviews and. This is how look, we've got no complaints at all. Everything's really, really good. But it's just this
It's
just
inside, right? It's
inside,
inside.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
voice coming from inside. You should show more passion.
yeah. And but it was something that I never quite like understood until a lot later, basically. Because again, I was like, oh, I don't, I don't know what they're looking for. Because I'm feeling that, for me,
I just want to ask you,
I was,
brother Faisal here. So the who was saying you should show passion, the your employer, or as actually the voice coming from inside?
no, my managers. My managers.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is the thing. Yeah, no, for me, I was like, look, this is my career. I want to work hard. I was very ambitious. I want to be like promoted and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, look, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
mm,
What they say, I don't understand what they're looking for, because what does
mm,
passion look like, right?
mm,
Because for example, like, anyone who knows me, they would say, oh, Faisal is very passionate about perfumes, for example, because if you look at my collection upstairs, I've probably got like 200 of them and stuff. So I love perfume. So
mm,
it is something I'm very passionate about. But I guess my approach, especially back then, was always very casual. Don't let anything affect me or fluster me, and I was just kind of went with the flow. That was kind of I guess, my personality quite back then. But this thing kind of kept haunting me. There's another thing that kept haunting me as well, which was, um, oh, if that's what it's important to specialize. So that's what they kept saying. Like, okay, so like, because although I was training to be a buyer, and I was a buyer, right? I was a retail buyer. I always find like marketing quite interesting. I had like got strong relationships in all the different teams, and I would just be asking questions all the time,
mm.
and so often in my reviews I would say, okay, but you know what? Now that you're in buying, we need to we can specialize. You can specialize in this or this or this, and it was something that I was always quite reluctant to do because I just didn't want to get typecast. I just want to. I guess because I guess this is what happens when you realize, is this really me? But you don't think about it back then because you don't have that maturity and stuff. But there's something preventing me from really like committing to it like all the way and doing all the courses that they're telling me to do and all that stuff. So anyway, so we got to this point, and now it was the 2008 crash. So that just happened, and I've been at the perfume shop now for a couple of years, and I'm at this kind of crossroads. I'm like, look, what everyone's saying to me: show passion, be specialist, all of these things, and now this crash has happened as well, uh, and also I still had this pain of not studying properly and not fulfilling my potential. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a decision to go back into studies. So I've got two choices: either I'm going to do the legal studies and finish that off and become qualified, or I'm going to do an MBA, right? And again, this is MBA was more. I was always interested in business, but not in the same way like my brother was. Right? My younger brother, he's the guy you would think, oh, he's from the age of 11, 12, he would go to the market and then sell things at school, and he was that kind of guy. I was never like that. Um, but I was just interested in business in general. But anyway, I came down to it, and I think I just craved that. Oh, you know what? I finally do want to be a specialist in something. Maybe that's what I should be doing. Everyone's telling me maybe I should. So I decided to go down that whole legal route, and so that's kind of what I did, and I studied hard, and I was obviously successful in doing that. So that now we're like kind of into 2010. And so I got like a temporary job whilst I was looking for kind of legal roles
Yeah, sure.
at the NHS, the National Health Service. And what was interesting was that at that point I went on this trip to South Africa, right? And I was visited this kind of Islamic retreat when I was there. And so for me, I always say that was the point that changed the course of my life, because if I hadn't gone to that, if there was like a sliding doors moment and I didn't go to that trip, I would now be this probably this lawyer who's a big corporate lawyer and all that kind of stuff. I'll probably be down that route. But I would say that trip. So what was interesting about this retreat was that there was like a lot of scholars there, but there was like 150, 200 like students from all around the world. I think there was like 30 different countries. And what was really interesting was that the range of topics that they were talking about Islam, but in a way that I've never heard about it before. So they were talking about Islam, that Islam has got the power to solve the economic problem, and it's got the power to solve the environmental problem and this problem. And I was like, wow. I was like, it kind of blew my mind because I did very, I would say, very, Joe Blogs Islam up to that point. I'd just done, going to the mosque and coming home, and I could read
It's just a small
Quran.
part of your life, right? Just to go to the
Yeah,
mosque
yeah,
and
yeah,
then come
exactly.
back.
But I was like, whoa, Islam has really got that much power and that much force, and it felt significant, right? But not only that, there was something again. This is where the whole past stuff comes, where I was like, wow, you know what? There's people here who are really strictly Sufi. There's people who are really strictly Salafi. There's people who are Tablighi Jamaat. There's people who are from this back, and they're all united talking about these big problems. And I was like, wow, it's like this is interesting because
Was
I've never
that
seen that
was that
before.
was that the case? That thing people come from different.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, and interesting because there was times where like not debates but potential friction could have come up. So for example, there was this incident where they were saying, "Oh, we're going to visit the Karamats and the Sufi saints and stuff." Because there's a lot. This is in Cape Town, right? So there's a lot of Sufi saints there and stuff. And you think so? I was thinking, something's going to kick off now and stuff. But it was very like relaxed because it was just like, look, the principle is if you want to go, you go, and if you don't, you don't. It's as simple as that. And this is the thing,
It's not
and what
black
the,
and white. It's not black and
it's
white.
not black and white. It was as simple as I was like, wow, it's amazing to see. Like this is how harmonious Islam should be practiced, right? And but what it is that they were focused on the bigger picture. Look, Islam, we've got something powerful here, and the world has got this problem, this problem, this problem. This is how we need to fix it and stuff. So for the first time I was around people who were big thinkers, and they were like strategically thinking about, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, and so that was really really refreshing, and it was paradigm shifting for me, I have to say.
Okay. So you were like around 20s? You were around 20s or 25? Or
Yeah,
who
yeah,
were,
I'm like 20, yeah, 26, 27 at this point.
okay.
Yeah,
That's a perfect moment to do those transitions, you know? If
yeah,
you were
yeah,
like 55, 65, you would not change your mind probably, like a fixed.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. But I guess it
Okay.
was also because for the first time, I guess you talk about the voice within. That's when the voice within spoke up, because I'm like, this is really like interesting. I finally found something that gave me a bit of spark, but I guess up to that point, nothing ever did. So anyway, so I came back and I was really inspired, and I was talking about it, and so what I said is that, you know what, at the very least, what I want to do is that I want to do a conference just for my hometown of Nottingham. I just want to do a conference where I just talk about some of these issues that happened, invite some local speakers maybe, and just a small little thing, right? I just thought, let me just do some
Because
positive
you have the
action.
buzz, you have the buzz, you brought the
Yeah, it's
buzz.
got the buzz. Yeah, so let me just tap into it and do something with it, right? And um, and so alhamdulillah, like what happened with that event was it was really amazing because first of all, I thought I'm going to do something different. I don't want to do an event just about the normal things that events talk about. I'm going to have an event where we're going to talk about the Islam and the monetary system, Islam and our food system or something. And then I had one about Islam and the media. So basically, it was looking at all these big issues. And what I deliberately did was I had scholars who were all from different backgrounds who were going to give the speeches. So the idea was that it was like almost like a unity conference, bringing these factions close together and to attend. And although I did have issues in the some people were like, oh no, if that scholar's going to be there, I'm not coming. And I was like, look, I don't care. Like we need to, the bigger picture is most important, and we need to make this happen and stuff. But I've got to say that Allah obviously made it easy, and that event was like a sellout. We had 300 seats. I think there was about 350 people who attended, all from like 15 different cities. So I was shocked. Like, I thought it was just a local thing in the mosque for me, but it ended up becoming this big hall, and yeah, and like we have no experience of running an event and stuff. It was something that not only was a successful event on the day, but that's what spawned. That's where No was born, because
Wow, really?
I had all this feedback afterwards. Oh God, you need to do more of this stuff. This is so important. This is so needed and stuff. And so I was just like, okay, well, maybe, and I guess because I had found a little bit of, okay, you know what, I really enjoy this stuff. Maybe we need to do more of this. And
Mm.
so what was quite interesting also is that I also had in mind, okay, I want to do topics for myself. In business, also sometimes how the avatar is really really important. But sometimes if you're your own avatar, it's actually the best, isn't it? Because there's always people out there like you, so you can just do what you want to see. And so alhamdulillah, so that was kind of what I did, and that's kind of that was when it took me to like 2012, 2013.
Cool. Cool. This is how the no was born, right?
That's how No was born. And so
Yes,
alhamdulillah, so
yes.
in those early days, No was all about um, again tackling big problems and talking about real issues. So our strapline at that time was clarity about reality, right? So it was like, okay, we'll give you about what's going on and we'll give you the clarity about it and stuff. So so through No, we would have an annual conference. That was one of the things that we were doing, and then we were doing all these smaller talks and interviews and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And so alhamdulillah, it grew quite fast at that time, because I think at our peak we had something like 15 volunteers, all like giving their time, like a team in like 8 or 9 different countries, big mailing list that grew, and alhamdulillah, so it was quite interesting to see, wow, people really are responding to this stuff. And it also spawned into, like, I guess, people wanting to talk a lot about, talking about today and how close we are to the end times. And so a lot of some things had a kind of end times theme to it as well at the time.
Okay. Okay. So I want to ask you this. So where's No now? Like, where's the vision for No? Like, tell us like more about what do you want to see? How do you see the No to be a part of the Muslim society? Like,
Sure, it's a very good question. So what was quite interesting about the whole No journey was that in the early days, again, it was very, I would say, revolutionary and quite direct, I'd say, in the sense that we were quite aggressive as well. Look, this is wrong and this is wrong and we need to sort this out. And so we were trying to do things in a very, what do you call it, I guess, abrupt or a urgency type of way. And then what happened was that around 2015, 2016, I started thinking a bit bigger. I was thinking, you know what, like, ultimately, what's going to really solve the problems is not, this is, you're going to get like a niche audience in this way, but what's the end game? What do we want? And so I started then reading a lot about, but obviously by this point I'd quit my job and I was also like an entrepreneur at this point. But I started to think, okay, if where do I want to take it going forward? And so I started reading books about platforms, about how about like how Uber and Airbnb and all these things. And I remember one scholar, what he said to me, he goes that, look, if you want to, like, what basically the whole point was, what problem is No solving? I started thinking along then, what problem is it solving? I thought to myself, oh, really and truly, it's actually education. I felt that like what we're getting is what I felt that I got in South Africa was it's education, but through an Islamic lens for the first time, and it was really, really powerful and intense. I thought that's actually what is needed. The problem with our education system is that sometimes it is a bit cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's not inspiring. It doesn't. Again, it doesn't. It's supposed to change your character. It's supposed to elevate you. It's supposed to empower you.
it's supposed to challenge your thoughts, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to make us critical thinkers, all this stuff, and it doesn't do any of that. It makes you conform and fit into a box, and so that's why I thought, okay, that's the problem I want to solve. Okay, now I know that's the problem I want to solve. I got clear on that. How do I want to solve this? And so then I thought, okay, right. So how do you challenge this beast? Right, this is a beast of a problem. It's 150 years old. The system is, and so what I remember.
Are we talking when we talk about education now? Are we talking about education in general or education in Islam? Just can you be more specific on this?
Yeah, so I was talking about initially. I was talking about education in Islam, how Islamic education is catered for and stuff. Yeah, but not in a way where I'm talking about our fiqh and all of these things. But what I want to tackle this aspect of Islamic, how Muslims learn, how Muslims learn.
Like critical thinking, like how
Critical thinking. Yeah, exactly how we process things, because a lot of stuff. This is a lot of the problem is that we're very. Oh yeah, the scholars of the past said this, and so we've outsourced that intellect, or we've relegated it in the sense that we don't need to think about today. But the Quran is constantly talking about pondering, reflecting, thinking. That's what it wants us to do. And it's about curiosity, it's about lifelong learning, it's about all of these different things. And so that's what I want. I was like, okay, I need to take it down that direction a little bit more. Also because it's a softer message, it's got much more mass appeal, and that's how you're going to make change. So again, I thought, okay, how do I tackle this? A scholar said to me, he goes that if you're trying to, revolutionize something or tackle a beast, it's very rarely done top down, because um, only if you have got a big army, or if you're like an Ertugrul, or like, you can tackle something top down. Mostly it's done bottom up, right? So that's about getting mobilizing the masses, and then when you look at what Uber did, what Airbnb, that's exactly what they did. They just got people onto a platform, and they've defeated these. So that's what I was thinking. Okay, right, I'm going to try and create a platform now where Uber made everyone into a taxi. I want No to make everyone into a teacher, because you've got things that I don't know, and I've got things that you don't know, and if you can teach each other, maybe that's how we can get there, right? So that's kind of the direction it took. So that's why it became this platform for online courses. I created this little concept. You know how you have tweets? Created this thing called nodes, which is again bite-sized learning. So videos that are 3 minutes or less, or like articles that are 300 words or less. So the idea is like to get information out in that's relevant for the modern day. So that's kind of the direction it took. What I realized that a lot of this stuff is dependent on, in terms of scaling it and getting it working, and obviously getting that product market fit, is obviously a lot of this stuff requires funding and getting that early traction and stuff. And so this is where I've found that I found it to be quite challenging. To be honest, a lot of it is because of focus. That's granted. So the power of focus is everything and stuff. But what I did a couple of years, probably 3-4 years, a couple of years ago, is I thought, okay, you know what? In the absence, I can't be waiting around, because I was applying for funding and doing pitch decks and stuff like that. But I thought, instead, I can't always forever wait for that. We need to think of a better way. And another way of doing it is the big idea. Get everyone rallying around its big idea. And what the big idea was, there was a second golden age. So again, what's happened with our history is that a lot of it's been whitewashed, and we don't know our history, but we know that there was a time, once upon a time, where Muslims were the best in the world. The best general, the best healer, the best everything, right? And so, and that was obviously considered our golden age. But when you think about how did it come about, what are the principles? Can we reverse engineer those principles and put it into them and combine it with the best of what the modern world has to teach, and bring it into this state? So that's kind of where the direction we took it in, alhamdulillah. So that's kind of where we are today. We're looking at basically our aim, inshallah, our vision is to bring about, inshallah, second golden age. But in terms of how to do that, we're going to want to elevate people's mindset, their thinking, and to be able to empower them to get that stage.
I want to understand this, what you said, a bit properly. Like when you say second golden age, so can you explain that? Can you rephrase it? How would it look like? How do we know if you reach there? And how is it different than what we have right now?
Of course, yeah, it's a very good point. So I wrote an article on this actually, not so long ago. In there, I was talking about, we recognize that Baghdad, for example, or Cordoba were almost like icons, or they were very good examples of what a golden age looks like. So first of all, they had a culture of learning. They had a culture of learning where like learning was like the status quo. Everyone wanted to learn, and it was the thing what people used to compete for knowledge and stuff. Everything was central to the Quran. So the Quran, because the Quran told them that they need to implore and learn new things, and they believe that if the more I learn, the more worship, or the better my worship is, the more closer I'll get to God.
It's a type of worship. Ilm is a knowledge. Ism is a
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so they believe that, okay, like Allah's, he's talking about the stars and nature. So I need to study the stars, because that's what Allah's given to us, and Allah's and so Allah's in everything essentially. So there's a psyche, or the mindset of, okay, curiosity, learning, all of that kind of stuff. That's very prevalent. Secondly, what they did to bring about this is that their leaders championed it. So they sponsored they like, how we have today, we have the athletes that are NBA athletes and Premier League footballers that are paid the best, and celebrities. Their scholars and teachers were paid the best, right? There's I think there's something like I forget the numbers, but they said that something like the entire British library budget was allocated to just the translation of books or something like that, just for one aspect of it. So it was great. Then we also had, obviously, had the House of Wisdom. We had people of different backgrounds all working together for this one thing. So, and it wasn't just like, oh no, this is our Islamic knowledge. They were taking knowledge from everyone and translating it, and and what the point of it is, it's not just for the sake of knowledge. Oh, I've got great knowledge. It's the whole point is that Islam is all about impact and benefiting society. That's all. It's about ihsan. It's about reaching, aim for the best, and then using that to benefit society. And so that's exactly what, they took that. It wasn't just that I've taken that knowledge now. They were like, okay, right. That led them to great inventions. It led them to that still live on today. We talk about internet and the iPhone, and obviously that wouldn't be possible without algorithms. We talk about shampoo and soap and all these things that we take, coffee and all these things that we take for granted. It all stemmed out of that mindset and that psyche that we have today. The last thing I mentioned in that article was you can actually see signs in all of these different aspects that they had in the big tech companies today. So, for example, Google have got this real deep culture of learning and innovation, right? That's very similar to how the Cordoba was, for example, with Elon Musk. After we talk about Tesla and Elon Musk, but obviously the kings and the caliphs at the time were people who really loved education. They were polymaths themselves, and so Elon Musk is someone who's we champion him. We say, oh yeah, he's amazing. But obviously, he's also someone who has read like a book a week since the age of 12, and so that's how he's able to come up with these crazy solutions. But again, this is another thing that the education system has done. It's compartmentalized knowledge, and it's separated everything. Whereas Islam or Islamic education is all about holistic, and this is where I realized that my whole thing of being a specialism and rebelling against that, and actually being a generalist, I've really embraced that now, because I realize that that's exactly what I believe in from deep within.
I heard what you said, but to some extent, this is what I think. Like innovation, if you want or not, it's happening all the time. Do we agree? Innovation is happening all the time, because if you haven't, I really suggest you can have a look at the book. It's called Factfulness. Have you heard about it?
Okay, yeah, I've actually got it on my Kindle. I've not read it yet, though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So this is a professor from Sweden, and he argues that when we talk about the progress, we talk about innovation, and if you look at the news today, open your TV channel, look at the news, the world looks like a hell.
Yeah.
Something bad is happening all the time. But what they're showing you is actually a very tiny fraction, very tiny fraction of bad things happening in the world. In the world, majority of things are happening good. They're happening calm without screaming at everybody. And he gives example, like how many people were in extreme poverty 50 years ago and how many people are right now. And you would expect the world is a worse place, but no, actually it's a better place. How many people are in hunger? How many people today? Yes. So in that sense, like I sincerely believe innovation is happening. It's a progress is happening all the time. But what is missing, in my opinion, is God centricity.
That's exactly it. Absolutely.
That's the point, right? So we are like, because recently I was seeing this.
We're living in the age of scientism, isn't it? Everything is science centric and scientism. Yeah.
So yeah, we took the sign as our God.
Yeah.
Right. But the golden age, the Muslims, we're not taking the science as the God. They're taking the science as way to God.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Come closer to God, get to know God better, and being amazed that, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this. How can we create the suns and the moon, how they work? They want to understand how
exactly.
these things work.
100%.
So
exactly.
They embrace Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They get to know Him. They get to appreciate it. You understand?
Absolutely.
From that point of view. And now it's gone, unfortunately. I mean, majority of science, the blind say, oh, we know what it works. They don't care about why. They just say what, how.
Exactly.
That is missing. If you want to ask me like what could be like 2.0, I would say that is it. You bring the God back into the picture.
Back into the picture.
God right in the center, where it's due, right?
Yeah,
where it's due.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that this is the thing, isn't it? That there was but I think God. Yeah, you're right. God is missing from the picture. But even like let's say Muslims are also missing from the picture. So I think there was a book called the Scientific Muslim or something. It's only recently been released. He did an analysis. He said that in I think 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 90% of the people who had invented who had I don't know who had achieved XYZ or who are graduates or basically something today we've got the Nobel Prize as metrics, right? He said 90% of the people who were successful at the time had either were Muslims or had come out of Muslim universities, right, or had a Muslim worldview. Use that today. It's less than 1%. It's only like one or two people that have, And I'm not saying that, So what's happening is that we're not really at the table, and even if we are at the table, it's done through the Western lens, and it's not following like Islam has got again. The Quran has got the answer to all things, and so if we can open the book and again have this God-centric approach, and it led the people of the past to amazing things. How did the Sahaba, who like 100 years before, 50 years before, were just Bedouins in the desert, how did they go on to achieve all this amazing stuff, conquer lands around them like as mighty as the Persians and stuff through this one book? So this is the power that it has if we can tap into it and put it front and center.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like what you said about now makes a lot of sense. So you're now, as you're saying, that your goal is now to make the now is a place where you want to spark this critical thinking among Muslims, right? Because here's another. My challenge is this: like um, in this day and age, unfortunately, many of us, even Muslims, become a bit lazy. So then there's a food for our body, like we eat, we drink, we have to do that, and there is a food for our like mind. You see the books behind you, and then listen to books, and then there's a food for soul, right?
Yeah.
This is the Quran. This is the stories we're talking about. This is this, right? But there's the motivation. So what we have become, like it could be on Instagram, it could be on Facebook, it could be any other social network. We follow a scholar, right? And he can or she can say something motivational, like, oh, do this deed, mashallah, like inspirational. Like you do that, you could press a like, you feel good, just you want more with your life. And I mean, I have nothing against it, which is good. It is better actually watching something else.
Yeah.
I think what's missing from the picture is that you said the critical thinking. How do we spark the critical thinking? Or how do we spark the pondering? How do we spark, and as Quran says, that what do you guys think about? How do I thinking like, how is this? Like, that thing is
curiosity is missing, isn't it? Curiosity.
Exactly. We want to feel good, like something superficial. Yeah, but I think as how do you go beyond how do you go that? Like imagine maybe you post something, right? It could be on LinkedIn, it goes somewhere that actually gets me thinking. Because recently there was this brother who was asking like, what is our difference in the Sahaba study? There's so much difference, so many differences, right? Like those kind of questions I'm talking about, like how does it ponder upon? Not just gives us the, hey, do this, Azkar in the morning. Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. You should do that. But I'm saying like, how do we how do we spark this critical thinking? How do we go back to that moment you were in South Africa, you saw this thing, it changed you, right? It just make a shift. And how can, I think that's what the know is, right? How do we spark those moments for, inshallah, for us and for the future generation of
Absolutely. I mean, just to give you an example, right? There's a lot of scholars, I'm sure even non-Muslim scholars, who all have the same sort of premise of, look, the key, knowing God, to know God, you need to know yourself, right? So knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom, Aristotle. So we've got this kind of framework, right, that has come from a lot of study of like what the scholars of the past have said, and also obviously it's done for our own research as well. Ultimately, the foundation principle is you have to get to know yourself if you want to get to know you. Ultimately, what we're trying to do two things, right? We're trying to transform someone from not knowing into becoming someone who knows, and the way and the highest form of knowing. This is basically the difference between ilm and irfan. Ilm means knowledge. Irfan means to know, right? And which is the highest form, that's the active form of knowing. And so what we were trying to do is that, okay, the highest form of knowing is to know God, but you can't get there if you don't build up the lower levels.
Yeah, it
right?
starts from the within. It starts
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
heart.
So,
You cannot just
so
start there.
so the first stage is, you know how we have the as above, so below. So the first level is to get to know yourself. What gets you motivated? What's you passionate? Like, because ultimately our purpose. Remember, Allah sent down us as caretakers, vicegerents in the earth. That means that we have got
Khalifa,
all.
yeah.
We've all, yeah, Khalifa. Yeah, we've all got a purpose. We've all got, and so this is where now I start to understand the whole sect thing a little bit better, because I think, okay, you know what? Everyone has been given a different purpose, and so what it is that, okay, if you are to believe in Jamaat or whatever, maybe this, you know, your calling is that your benefit to the ummah is that you're someone who invites and you do khidmat and all that kind of stuff. Someone who might be really good at debating, they might be the YouTube, the dais, and but the point is that everyone has, like, even if you look at schools and like these Montessori schools and stuff, they get kids in a playground, they give them blocks or artwork and stuff, and the kid goes towards what they like, and this is fitra. It's what their fitra is, and I think that the world has become almost anti-fitra. It's kind of moves us away from who we are, and we need to revive first who we are, and because then we'll find, okay, this is what I was born to do. And when you're born to do something, you'll then do it full ihsan and will help you get there. So that's the first stage. Once you've done that, then the second stage is to actually know the world around you, right? So I've now mastered myself. Now, how do all these different challenges around me? Okay, so you know, there's this going on in the world, and there's history, and there's health, and all these different, and wealth, and making money, and stuff, my family and relationship. So it's about understanding how you can navigate the world. And so first of all, you start at the bottom, then we've got to move horizontal, and then you go to the top, and you go to God, and understanding your relationship now with God and stuff like that. So these are the three levels to kind of work through, inshallah, to elevate them into really doing what you're born to do and to make impact in the world.
Absolutely. So I think there are two questions for you. I think alhamdulillah, we've been talking for a while. I really enjoyed it. So the two questions. So how can we support you in your journey with no? Like, what do you need? Like 2 or 3 things from the ummah, from us. Like, how can we support you?
It's I think the first thing is that we need to be committed to like basically, I think for the first of all is we need to, like I said, joining obviously joining the mailing list, getting involved with, you know, what we're doing. That's the obviously the obvious one. Yeah, because obviously the thing is, what's interesting is I recently sent out our, you know, end of year survey. What was amazing in the feedback we got, it was overwhelmingly, like, really strong. It was like, but the one thing that people said, you need to, is that not enough people know about you, is because your the things that you're doing are so deep and they're so needed. But you know, so that's the first thing, is that, you know, get to know us, and you know, and take in some of the stuff that we've got, share it with others, etc. But the main thing is that really, I would say, it needs a commit to a paradigm shift. Commit to, first of all, getting to know yourself. Commit to actually, you know, looking at, okay, what does the Quran tell us about the world? What does Islam tell us about this? Because what's happened is that we're so committed to the Western education that we've been given, is that sometimes a lot, and what we actually fail to realize, that some of it is actually incompatible with the Islamic worldview, and so we actually might have to go through a period of unlearning, right? And so, so what I would say is that always just keep an open mind, and be willing to you know, entertain new ideas, new concepts. And the final thing I would say is, this is what a scholar said to me. I spent some time with him, and I said that, look, Sheikh, I've spent some, you know, I've really enjoyed our time. Is there anything that you want to leave me with? So he said that, look, he goes, I know that you enjoy studying, I know you're learning, but ultimately it just comes down to, there's only one key thing that you need to do: read the Quran cover to cover every single month without fail. Because he goes that is the fundamental, that is the absolute foundation. Because he goes that is the key to all things. He goes that, first of all, because he goes, so first of all, it's like an athlete. You think about, they have to have a certain level of fitness. If you really want to understand the world, you go to the source of all knowledge, right? That's the first thing. and so get yourself to a good level. Secondly, it's because the Quran is like a shifa for us, and it's a healing for, like, us reciting it actually will bring us barakah. It'll bring us barakah in our time, in the way we feel. And also we have to understand how knowledge comes to us. Knowledge is not just something that we read, and it's not just logic. It's insight, it's wisdom that which has come from within. This is what the Quran puts into our hearts. It's a light, essentially. So this is the second aspect. And the third aspect of it is that, like I said, the Quran is simply sent out to explains all things. And also, he also says that if the Quran was, if the trees were pens and the seas were ink, and there were 7 more seas of ink, the words that would run out, but Allah's word would never run out. That tells us that the Quran literally has got everything to explain to us until the end of time. So what he tells us is that, look, I went. He basically said that I took the Quran into the classroom and look compare. He goes that this is the only thing that we've got that's untouched and unchangeable until the end of time. So like you need to like if you want to understand anything, use the Quran as your compass, your yardstick of truth.
Guidance.
If it's compatible, then great. If it's incompatible, then get rid of that other thing, because you know the Quran is the one thing that's untrue. That's untouched. Sorry, that's untouched. So that's the first foundation. Here, that once you've done that stage, you've got that consistency. Then it's okay, and then now you can understand how do you connect the dots? How do you understand the methodology for understanding the Quran? Once these are like, you know how you have mental models. This is like your mental model. If you can understand the framework of understanding the Quran properly, literally, and then you can put everything else that you see through that lens, you know, things start to make sense, and you can start connecting the dots.
Yeah. I see. One of the last questions is that, since you mentioned platforms, with a know what you want to do, inshallah, to spark the era where in science the God is going to be in the center, right? God centered, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So my question is, like, now what we are seeing is that a lot of, the humans, I believe that, I don't know, like, I want to get your opinion. I believe I'm in an opinion that before we get there, that's a state of becoming, right? Do we agree?
Yeah.
That is a becoming and doing, action. Before action state, first what need to change is the conversation. First need to change the communication. First need to change is the mindset.
Yeah.
So in that timeline, I sincerely believe that, like, you have like platforms, social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, all other, like LinkedIn, other coming up. But I believe, I don't know if your opinion, like, I just want to get your opinion as well. I believe what we are lacking is that a platform for the God is in the center back again. If you go to Facebook or Instagram, like, it's like, especially on Instagram, like, people like doing how cool they are, what they eat, like, it's about your ego, right? You're puffing your ego. Like, and what's doing it to you is like, it's not real. It's not 24/7 like that. We know that we live in real life. In real life, I'm just sitting in a room talking to you. I'm enjoying that, but it doesn't mean it's like all flowers and rainbows. I have problems. You have problems. Everybody has problems. So first of all, it does to the one person who is doing that. It's fake, and it destroys his soul. Eventually, it just feels weak. But it does more damage to other people. The other people who may not be real, like this, they're looking at his life or her life and say, "Wow, that is so like." And look at my life. What kind of crazy life I live in. And get stressed and depressed. And I think that's because we give too much to ego. Yeah, ego has its places, but if too much, it's ballooned up.
Yeah, ego is the enemy, isn't it? As they say. Yeah.
It is. It's I mean, I believe so. Like, I sincerely believe that we need a place. Yeah, maybe not everybody's going to go there, but I think we need a place where to reset and say, okay, let's come to a place where how cool you are, it's not about how you look or what you had for lunch, but what are you going to share today? Like, how can you, like, another thing is that the true friend is when you see him, he reminds you of God. He reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Nothing like what kind of car you have. It doesn't matter. Who cares about what kind of car you have or what you have? And like in 40 years, sorry, we are done. So would you think like there is a need for such a platform, like where the God-centered, let's put it this way, in a way, because humans are social anyway. So do you think that by shifting this algorithms, like where the God is in the center, not the ego, do you think that first of all, do we need such a platform? And the second of, is it even possible to create such a platform? That is a question.
Okay, so it's a very, very good question. There's 2 ways of answering that. I want to just first of all take a couple of minutes just to explain to you how I rethought out the no platform and stuff. Because initially I told you, like, I created the platform, and then obviously tried to get the funding and do it the normal VC type of way, and then obviously I realized that you're right, the conversation had to shift. And so I realized, okay, you really have to win the hearts and minds first, and so change behaviors, and then eventually, and so instead of that becoming the main thing, that's now the end game. Is that so? What I want to do first is that the first stage of no is to learn, to come to the platform just to learn, and be not, I guess, not indoctrinated, but learn like the new way, and the
Start a
God-centered way.
conversation, start
Yeah,
discussion, start
start the
discussion.
conversation, and yeah, get that thought provoking, and I've also have a bit of a transformation in your own thinking. Okay, well, once you get to that stage, then it comes to a stage where, okay, you know what, the Islamic heritage of learning is then to teach. Right? So once you learn, and you've got something that, okay, you know what, I've got something good. I now, first of all, that helps you to retain your knowledge, but also secondly, you're beginning giving ongoing benefit. So the second stage is to teach others, and then the third stage is now then you can share it and this and that. So this is where, for me, now the platform becomes the end goal. The third stage, once you've got enough people who have learned, and then enough of those learners have become teachers, and then eventually they can go to the platform and stuff. So that's kind of where no is now, and like how I kind of foresee it long term. In terms of that having a God-centered platform, you one side of me is thinking, you know what, that's exactly what's needed. It's like the antithesis of Facebook and things that make you feel down and depressed and stuff. But then on the other side, I think maybe it's an oxymoron, because should you be online to look for God? Actually, it's within. You should be. You should be getting off the computer and going into nature, and meditating, and go, and on the grass and all that kind of. It could be argued that that's the way, but ultimately you have to remember, with a lot of this technology stuff, is that it's how you use it. There's always an alternative. There's always the negative alternative. So there should be a positive to counter it, absolutely. And so I feel that if there was the thing is that if you can find a platform that it's somewhere to share, basically it's you want to get to a place where you got the best of what Facebook has to offer in terms of that community, but without all that, without all the ego, without all the feeling bad about yourself, and so that would be the happy medium. But I mean,
And I
again,
think
how do you do it? Because again, what Facebook does is that it has all the algorithms designed to keep you on there and this and that. Whereas I guess a God-centered platform wouldn't be, oh, you need to stay here for as long as possible, and it would be more centered around, okay, So
yeah,
it's
I mean, you raise a very good, interesting point. As you said, sometimes to get to know God, you have to cut off everything, right? You have
yeah,
to look inside. And I think, as you said, everything is life. Not everything is black and white. Because if you want it or not, like, to be honest, if you want it or not, cutting off life from our life right now, most of our, like, it's not possible. Like, it's
yeah, of
there.
course,
It's
yeah, yeah,
24/7. So instead of even saying, oh, it's something to replace Facebook, it's like an alternative, right? If you want, it's just a one click away. It's going to be one click away from you. You just either click on Facebook or this. So if you go there, you're not looking at someone's ego. You may end up what you want to, like, elevate your soul in a way,
mm.
and get something good instead of bad influence. Like, instead of looking and depressed,
Yeah.
it
I
could
mean,
be
I've got an
good.
idea. I've got an idea of how something like that could work. So if you think about Reddit is something that's very, very, very popular, and it ties into all those sub niches, and the most random and minor of things. You can find an audience to gather around it, right? And so it's the same. If you create a purpose driven platform, so this is for all the people who want to you want to serve Islam in this way, and in this way, and in this way, and this way. So actually, it becomes a place for people to unite in terms of good, doing great work. Okay, so you are all the guys who want to, spread the deen, and okay, right, you go off and do this. You guys are all the guys who want to learn, speak with impact and become like dais and stuff. Okay, great. You guys do go off and do this. That would be something really amazing, because now you're uniting on common ground, but with the overall premise that, okay, how can we all serve God? How can we serve the religion of Islam in the best way? That would be how a platform like that could be used.
Okay. Well, thank you for your feedback. So, as a last note, tell the people where they can find about more, like, if they want to connect, if they want to follow up with you, or really want to know about the know, what they can find about this.
Sure. So the website for Note is snow.com. So it's kn-ow.com. Obviously, you can get me on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, Faisal Amjad. But I also write a lot on Medium. So you could just check out my Medium profile, Faisal Amjad at medium.com, I think, something like that.
Yeah, so of course we'll share all those links below the script, the notes as well. Inshallah. Well, again, I'm gonna say thank you for your time. Thank you very a lot for being here, for sharing your thoughts, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make blessed platform, may full of blessing and barakah.
Ameen.
By all of us, may your dream come true, and may Allah help us to become a part of you and helping you as well. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.